So I think this is Atlas's third session with the hose. It's a few months later. It's May when I filmed this, and I believe I filmed his original two videos in March. So he's had some time off, but now I want to kind of reintroduce the hose because I want to start spraying him off here pretty soon when it gets hot. So again, I'm just going to bring up the hose, make sure he's cool with it because he hadn't seen it in a bit. And that's great. He wants to go down and put his nose on it on his own. I should have reinforced that where he's just going and wanting to touch it on his own versus bringing it up again. But he's cool with me bringing it up. So there, that's again like he's investigating it. And I do have the water on at this point, and it's a little bit higher than before. So this is really nice. He doesn't seem like he's changed his mind about it since the water is on. And it's just on a trickle, nothing crazy. I'm not going to turn it on full blast. I took a lot of time to get him used to just the hose itself, then a tiny little trickle, and now it's maybe a little tiny bit more, just not a whole lot because I don't want to create a huge puddle either. But I can fold over my hose here too and get the water to stop, and so that he's used to it kind of moving and then not moving. I just want him to look at it. Very nice. So he's targeting it with the water trickling out, and that looks great. And then I can kind of fold it and make it stop. So I do end up putting like the little nozzle on there so I can control the spray a little bit better. But I like that he's investigating it. That looks really great. There, I'm gonna have it turn back on, and then there he can touch the water on his own. So I didn't really necessarily want him to do that, but I wanted him to just touch the hose, but he didn't seem too bothered by that. And really, like, if anything, I have to push him back here and ask him to back up because he really wants to touch the hose. So that's really great. And then I'm just going to kind of get closer to his feet because that's where I'm going to start. And he seemed totally fine with that. So I'm reinforcing here for me approaching his feet with the hose. And then I'm folding it off and taking that water away. So I'll kind of turn it back on, make sure he's cool with it just near him. So he's investigating it. Great. And he wants to touch it again. That's totally fine. So it's just kind of controlling that water. I just kind of get him used to a little bit of a trickle, and then I'll start turning it off, turning it back on, turning it off, turning it back on. And really, I probably could have used that cone as a start button again so that when he touched the cone, I could turn the water back on and then kind of get closer to his feet. That probably would have worked a little bit better. He seems totally fine here. Like, he doesn't look worried at all, but I think that would have been a little bit clearer for both of us. So I'm kind of maybe using a little bit of a start button as his neck comes down. So he kind of did that, but I have to be consistent with that in order for that to work. But he kind of lowered his neck. I turned the water on. I kind of brought the water closer to his feet, and he seemed totally okay with that. So that looked pretty good. And he's willing to come and want to touch the hose. So that's really, really nice. That's a good sign. He wants to participate. He wants to touch it with his nose. So I'm just gonna barely get some water on his hoof there. And he's like, oh, it's cold and wet. So unfortunately, I don't have any warm water. If you have like a warmer water, I would do that. Unless it's a hotter day out, then I would probably just teach it in summer. And it is on this day, so that's why I'm doing it now. I didn't want to do a lot of like water and having him get actually wet when I was filming in March when it was colder. So now that it's warmer, he'll appreciate it more. It won't be as like shocking to him. So, but he seemed to handle it well. Like, he kind of picked up a split, and it even could have been a fly. I really can't tell from here. I do think it was the water, but he didn't back up. He didn't want to leave. He didn't look away. So all of those are good signs. So I'm just gonna let him hang out, chew his treat. Then we'll bring the water back. Just kind of let him see it. So I kind of unfold it, let the spray come back. He's definitely wanting to touch it. And I'm going to kind of move on past that and just go back to his foot there and kind of get a little bit on his fetlock. So I kind of started like on his hoof, right like on the hairs right above his hoof. Now I'm just like on his pastern area, on his fetlock. And then I'll just work my way up his front feet. So that's where I start. And that's going to be the easiest spot because I can kind of gauge how he feels about the water approaching him. And then if I do it on his hoof, like, it's not, he can't really feel it. It's not like I'm spraying him right away. He does have some hair on his legs as well there. So I'm going to do up by his knee here, up on his cannon bone, and that looks great. So, and it's just a little bit less threatening and less scary than if I were to spray him on the neck or the shoulder, where most of the time, like, people would say to start desensitizing a horse, but specifically for the hose, I like to start on those front feet and kind of work my way up. And I'll be doing that process for quite a while until he's completely comfortable with me spraying him all over with the hose with the nozzle on, and then I'll just start with spraying him right on the shoulder or the neck or the side. But for now and for the beginning, I'm going to start and repeat this process so that he knows this is what's going to happen. The water's going to come towards you, it's going to get your leg, and then it'll go on you, and it's not a big deal. So as long as he's comfortable with that process, then I can move away from that later on. But this looks really, really nice. Um, I'm going to keep this a nice short session, keep it really slow, keep him under threshold, nothing crazy. Very nice. I mean, I like that he's standing there. I am noticing that he's twitching his skin a little bit. He also does have flies, so I have to kind of like, from my perspective, next to him, I could see, okay, is that a fly? Is that in response to the water? So, and that is not a bad thing. It's just something to check into. Some horses are more sensitive than others. Atlas is definitely, so he might kind of flinch. Like, I think his flinching is definitely from the water, and that's okay. He might just do that in the beginning, but he's not stepping back. He's not showing any signs that he wants to leave, so he's not like looking away, not doing a head turn, backing up, shifting his weight back, definitely just walking off. So all of those signs are really good that he's not doing any of them. So I like that he's staying, he wanting to participate, and he is also wanting to touch that hose and use it as a target. So those are all really good signs. And you also have to pay attention to his face and to how tight it is, and he seems totally fine. And it's a little bit, the exposure is a little bit bright, but um, he seems totally fine with that. So this looks really good. So I've kind of worked my way up to right below his chest, like kind of right on his shoulder, right below his shoulder. And that looks really awesome. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I usually just kind of focus on like one front leg in that first like session where I'm actually touching him with the water. It just kind of depends on your horse, but that's kind of how I like to break it up. Yeah, so that looks great. I don't think he flinched that time. That looks beautiful. I'm going to give him a jackpot, and then we'll just kind of expand on this lesson on another day. So just breaking it up in little tiny sessions and making sure that he is successful.